Hello, good peapods of the tinterwebs. How are we all here today? Right? Ready to go? Right. What are we going to look at today? Well, I thought, he says, right, it might be a bit of the old fun if we were to take a look at like this thing on the screen here that I've got on the screen here. It's been doing the rounds. Labour achievements so far. So I thought we'd have a look at some of those, right? Because we're doing the right. People are going, well, they seem to be doing all right, don't they? Do they? Right, okay, let's have a look to see. I've tried to set it up so we can zoom in and see what exactly we're talking about. So let's have a go with the zooming in. And there we are, we've zoomed in. So Labour have said they're going to set up a national wealth fund. That's about generating business, manufacturing, engineering. But of course, it's got the net zero embedded into it. So good luck with that, right? They've been the Rwanda plan, which was the stupidest thing they could have ever done. We've had nothing but more and more immigrants, illegal immigrants arrive since that started. They dealt decisively with far-right riots. Now, do you remember all those people that declared themselves part of the far right? I'm far right here with my two kids having a wonder. Who declared themselves far right? They dealt decisively with far-right riots. I mean, that's a downright lie. They did nothing. It's just a downright lie. They refuse to listen to people about what people are concerned about, and they've called it that. They started the COVID corruption inquiry. Yeah, right. Okay. And they reset relations with Europe. Did they now? Why? They've reset relations with Europe, and yet we seem to be in a situation where they think we're going to get cozy with Europe like we used to be. I'd be very careful about that one, because I don't know about you, but I don't want to be anywhere near Europe right now. I really don't. And in terms of doing business with them, that'll happen naturally. We don't need the government to get involved in that. They've given the green light to bring public services under local control. It's funny, isn't it, eh? So they're going to bring them back under local control. Now, that might work or it might not. Seems to have worked in Manchester. Yep. Oh, he's done a good job. Oh, Burnham. But I'm not generally a lover of public ownership, so we'll see where that takes us. So, some stuff going on that's good. They've confirmed removal of VAT exemption for private schools. Right, okay, well, now we're in trouble, aren't we? Right, that's just a disaster. I've spoken to some people, and a lot of parents that send their children to private schools do so because that child has a need that cannot be satisfied in the public school sector, or should not be satisfied in the public school sector. So a parent with a children that has special needs may well go that extra mile and live a life more frugally, perhaps, in order to afford to send their child to the specialist school that the child needs. What the government have done is essentially remove that option from them, and will now have all these children who may have huge problems flooding into the public sector. And that, whether we like it or not, will have a knock-on effect on the other children. You can see people online saying it, that children that cause problems are a problem to all the children in the lesson. The teachers end up dealing with crowd control rather than teaching. I think this is a recipe for disaster, but again, time will tell. They've authorised compensation for people affected by the infected blood scandal. Okay, good. We're all right with that. Down with that. They set up an NHS 24/7 11 111 helpline for mental health. I'm not down with that. I can tell you now. Not down with that at all. The definition of a mental health problem is now so wide to almost be meaningless. And whether you like it or not, if you start digging about and find out why, it's all about neurodiversity. What they've done is that the idea of neurodiversity says that neurodiversity means everybody's okay. Well, that's actually what it was about. It's about getting rid of the idea that there are people who are unwell mentally. Well, now what they've done is they've realised, I think, that was a nonsense, and we've got nutters running around screaming about being something they're not, or believing in things like EDI and critical race theory, nut jobs, which now they will send them mental, all of that, because it's all about power and oppression. It's all about constantly thinking in terms of combative ways of seeing the world, and that will drive mental health. So I think they're setting this up not just to deal with the real problem that we've got now with people who think they're mentally unwell, because mental health, so what does that even mean? You're either mentally or you aren't. Okay, it's not mental health, mental illness, mental health, different thing. Your mental health is mostly your responsibility, the same as your physical health. And your intellectual health, which if you thought more about your intellectual health, you wouldn't have a mental health problem. Now, that's not to say there aren't serious problems with people who are mentally unwell, right? That's definitely that. Well, how the hell's a helpline going to help? Just asking. Created a child poverty task force. That gets complicated. The minute you start to look at it, that gets complicated. Because if you're a couple with a child, then you're in poverty if you're on less than 20 grand a year after housing costs. Now, I think you'll find the problem is housing costs. But we'll see. Okay, same thing again. If they were to slap the bloody mortgage companies and get them to damn well behave, mortgages should be based not on 3 times income per year, like something out of the 20th century. It needs to be based on if you've paid rent at £1,000 a month for the last 3 years and you're earning 20 grand a year, you should be able to get a mortgage for £1,000 a month. And we need to stop this lark about interest rates. When you get a mortgage, that interest rate is fixed for the rest of your damn life. You want to do something to help people, do that. Do that. Say, right, interest rates can never be more than 4%. The bank has to deal with the rest of it, and that's it. We set everything at one level, and everybody knows what the hell's going to happen. That's what I do. But then, I'm not an economist. There'll be an economist somewhere going, that Edijester bloke, he's a bit of a twat, isn't he? They've created that sort of child poverty task force. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Because, there are parents who work really hard who don't have enough money, but they will sacrifice their meals and their what they go through in order to ensure that their children are okay. And then there are feckless parents. Which do you think the government is going to want to engage with? Well, I sincerely hope that they engage with those who are trying hard by enabling them to earn more money, not giving them a handout. That's the most important thing, because we don't need an overarching parent. We need you to deal with the elements that prevent us from being successful. And then you've got to deal with the feckless parents, which of course you won't, because you never have. And that goes for the Tories too, and anybody else who gets in power. They won't deal with the feckless parents. They've announced free breakfast club for kids to be rolled out from April 2020. This is a terrible idea. An absolutely terrible idea. I'm sorry, it is. You have breakfast, you have it with your family. You sit down at a table together, right? You're not our parent. It's a terrible idea. Absolutely dreadful. But what about the children that don't get any breakfast? Deal with the feckless parents. Not complicated. They introduced plans to remove all hereditary peers from lords. Well, there are some in there who are probably just wastrels sitting there having a doze or, reading a book. But I would say to you, Chesterton's Fence. That's all I will say. Chesterton's Fence. If you don't know what Chesterton's Fence is, go and look it up. They've started GB Energy, our publicly owned clean power company. Right, okay, that's going to be expensive, isn't it? What are you going to do, subsidise it? In which case, if you're going to subsidise GB Energy, because you'll have to, because it's clean power, which is the net zero con, if you're going to subsidise GB Energy, then that means that they won't be competing in the market. How's that going to work? And if they're not competing in the market, will it be cheaper than the market? In which case, if it's cheaper than the market, everybody that's in the market, with British Gas and Octopus and whatever these companies are called, are going to go, here, look, GB Energy, bit cheap, innit? We'll go there. And they'll all go to GB Energy, at which point GB Energy will have so many customers, it won't be able to cope. And the market will die. Oh, gosh. Isn't that awful? So is it going to compete or isn't it? And if it's going to compete, what's the point of it? It's just in the same situation as the rest of them. Honest to God, I don't know with these people. So we'll keep going, shall we? Just for the fun of it. I mean, you can let me know what you think in the comments. Oh, by the way, become a warrior teacher starting in November. It's going to be a really good intake this time. I've got a good feeling about it. There'll be some great people. We've had some great meetings over the last couple of days post the Warrior Teacher Conference. If you can't, buy me a coffee, do the usual. Oh, tea, I need it this morning. It's getting a bit chilly, isn't it? Winter's on the way, folks. Right, they introduced the Renters' Rights Bill. This is an interesting one. It means that they've got the right to ask if they can have a pet. I think if you want to be fair to the pets, don't have a cat in a flat. Just doesn't seem right, does it? Doesn't seem right. There's one that lives over from me, sits in the window all the time, just looking at me going, help. It also means that people can't, no fault eviction. They can't go, right, you've got 2 months, get out. They have to give them longer. I would suggest that you deal with people who are living in flats that are beyond depraved in terms of what's falling apart and what's not working. That's what you need to get tough on. Didn't one of your folks just get caught with that? I think they did. I can't remember what his name was, though. Anybody else going to tell me in the comments? Railways in public ownership run by Great British Railways. Well, how soon we forget how bad it used to be. You think it's bad now? You wait. The problem with railways is the cost. So they're going to bring it in again. Right, we're getting it in public ownership, then we're going to keep it really cheap. Well, fine, you'll have to subsidise it, and you'll have to own all of it, because otherwise you'll destroy the market, which is what they intend to do, I have a strange feeling. Hillsborough law will ensure those responsible for public disasters will never escape justice. Yep, need to look at the details on that one. I'm always sceptical about stuff that's named after a tragedy, an individual tragedy, or an individual named person. Always sceptical. So I need to look at that in much more depth. If you know anything about it, let me know. Veterans, care leavers, and domestic abuse victims will be given better access to social housing. Thank God, aren't we? Absolutely. Why is that a thing? Why is that? That's how it should be normally. Warm homes for all renters will lift over 1 million renters out of fuel poverty. Will it? Will it really? What do you mean by warm homes? I think net zero's hiding in the background there somewhere. Well, we're going to give people heat pumps, and you're going the wrong way. The secret now, as we move forward through life, you and I and everybody else, especially me as I get old and chilly, is that you don't heat the home, you heat the person. Right? So get yourself a pair of USB chargeable socks, a USB chargeable jacket, and a USB chargeable pair of underpants, or better still, buy some thermals. They're not exactly fashionable. They don't make you look sexy, but they'll keep you warm. So, there's plenty of ways that we can do this. I'm not sure that sticking bloody great big heat exchange nonsense in people's homes is going to help. And they're saying, oh, well, people won't have to rip out their boilers. Yeah, they won't yet. Wait and see. Crackdown on online sale of knives and gangs targeting children. Really? How are you going to do that? Right? What do you mean? You're going to crack down on Kitchen Devil? What are you going to crack down on? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Ban on ninja swords. You're telling me they aren't banned? I thought it was illegal to carry a knife in public. Doesn't a sword count? It's just, isn't this weird? Do you not find it weird? And then a new foundation apprenticeships to eradicate unemployment for young people. This is cracking, right? So I said it all along. 14 years old, out, and you're a miscreant. You're giving everybody else a hard time. You don't like maths and English. You can't be bothered with history, but you can build a car, all right? Or you can fix a busted flush, right? Get to work. Get out there and get working. Stop fannying about. You're just causing problems to everybody else who's going to be in more academic bent. And we would much rather you did something that you're good at. And we can really, really look at how you can use your talent in a particular field to get yourself working and start life properly. That's what I do. That's what they're going to do. 15 and up. It's a brilliant idea, except there's one flaw. They aren't going to pay them. So they're going to go to 15. Right, you can do a foundation apprenticeship now. Great. What does that mean? You can go to work now at 15. Oh, brilliant. That's wonderful. I think that's how much am I going to get paid? Oh, you're not going to get paid? They're not going to pay them. Right, we don't need it. New foundation. We don't need it. Organisations are quite happy to train young people in things that we know that we need, that we haven't got enough people in. For goodness sake, all you have to do is get the red tape out of the way so we can put them in the workplace. Foundation. No, you won't get paid. Oh, right, okay. It's like what they've done is they've taken out the work experience week and gone, I'll tell you what, let's reverse it. They'll have a week in school, right? And 35 weeks of the year they work, and we don't pay them. Anyway, you can let me know. I just thought, seeing as this was doing the rounds, it might be fun to do. So you tell me what you think. Labour achievements so far. Most of those aren't achievements, by the way. You go and have a look and let me know what you think, because it's just beyond the pale. Bye-bye.